Hello and welcome to Give and Take, the Virtues in Life. And today's topic is clairvoyancy. And so we have a wonderful guest who will introduce herself and tell us all about what she does in the area of clairvoyancy and all the other wonderful things that she does. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay. And your name?
My name is Shannon Brandt, and
Okay.
I am a medium, clairvoyant, and psychic.
Okay, great. So wherever you want to start, you could start and tell us about what you do.
Okay, great. So I am a medium, clairvoyant, and psychic. I speak with angels, guides, and source. So source really is the universe, whatever people perceive as the universe or God or whatever. I just call it source. And basically, what I do is I raise my vibration up, and people who have shifted out of their bodies or the angelic realm will lower their vibration down and give me information.
Oh.
So I can really get anything that anyone wants as long as source or the angelic realm or whomever has shifted or passed is willing to tell me.
Okay. So how would you go about doing something like that? Is there a procedure, or it just comes to you?
That's a really good question. When I first started doing this work, it was a lot more formal for me. I had to be in a dark room and really concentrate and meditate before. But as I continued to do it, I realized that really all it was being present. So as long as I am very present, I'm not focused on anything that has happened during the day. Or anything I'm going to be doing later. If I'm really just present with my client, I'm available to receive the information.
Okay, so it's just being present with the client, and then the information just comes through. And so, what are some of the things that come through for through you for the client?
Well, it depends on the way, if we're speaking to somebody who's shifted or transitioned out of their body, it depends on the way they speak or like to speak to me. So they usually speak to me in one of three ways. They either speak to me directly, so they speak, sometimes in full sentences, sometimes in words here and there. Sometimes they show me pictures. Sometimes they show me pictures of my life. So sometimes it gets a little bit more dicey where I have to interpret what they're giving me. When they speak to me directly, it's easier. But sometimes, they'll show me a picture of a cruise ship, and I'll think that it's like the Love Boat, but they're really trying to tell me about, the fact that they lived near some place that used to dock cruise ships. So really, when I don't understand what's going on, it's my inability to really understand how they're speaking to me. But usually when I get a line on it and I can figure out how they're communicating, it eases up and it's a little bit easier.
Okay. You said two words. You said transition and shifting. Could you just elaborate a little bit on those two terms?
I really honestly don't believe in the idea of death. We live in a universe which supposedly is a closed system. And in a closed system, energy can neither be made nor destroyed. So to me, the idea of death is something that sounds so final. So I also, through this work have understood that the people that I work with are still, their spirit, their souls are still intact. So to me, there's no death. There's only kind of a shifting or a transitioning of form.
Okay, yes. I just wanted to, so that for some people hearing the words, that they wanted to understand what you meant by that, because that's my belief. So you're actually talking to somebody who understands exactly what you're saying, but just for the so that the viewers will understand when you say shifting and transition, what you meant by that. So how long have you been doing this, Shannon?
I've been doing some form or fashion of this work for I was born with a lot of these abilities, and I've been doing some form or fashion of this work for the past 15 years.
Okay.
But I've really been doing the medium work for about 4 years.
Okay, all right. So as a medium, if I came to you and I said, all right, you do medium work, how would you do it? Some people use cards, they use different things. So what is your method of being a medium?
You're kind of looking at it.
Okay.
I don't really need anything.
Okay.
Yeah, so the information just comes to me. I mean,
Uh-huh.
there are a lot of things that I really believe that everybody has the ability to hear.
Right.
They just don't know what to do. There is a lot that you have to continuously do, which is working on healing yourself, keeping your vibration high. So that means anything that the ego mind might continuously try to kind of pull you down with, like judgment and
Mm-hmm.
fear and um, feeling like you're living in lack, things like that. I
Right.
have to constantly check myself, make sure that I'm working on myself all the time to keep my vibration high in
Mm-hmm.
order to be able to access
Mm-hmm.
um, these other spaces.
Okay, so I heard another two things. I heard ego mind. Explain ego mind.
Ego mind. Well, it's really interesting. We have two things that inform our reality. One is the soul, and the soul is expansive and timeless, which is wonderful. And then the ego. And the ego, I think that is a kind of like the owner's manual for a car. You get a new one every time you get a new car. You get a new ego every time you get a new body. So the ego mind is here to keep us straight up from dying. That's all it does. It
Mm,
just keeps us from, doing something that would put us into danger. And what the ego fears the most is the unknown. So
okay.
the ego mind does whatever it can to keep us in patterns that we already understand. So
Mm-hmm.
when I refer to the ego mind, it's when I'm kind of looking at my reality through the lens of these stories I create to kind of keep myself in one place.
Right. So my thoughts go to medium and clairvoyancy. Is there a difference or is it the same thing?
That's a really good question.
Mm.
They're all very different. So if you're a medium, you can actually hear people who have transitioned, right? Died, but transitioned.
Right.
You can receive messages from them.
Mm.
If you're clairvoyant, it means you have clear sight.
Mm.
So I can actually see things.
Okay.
So I can see things that have happened. I can see things that will happen. I
Mm.
mean, I don't see them in front of my eyes like a movie screen. You just actually get the images in your head.
Mm.
Um, so there's also a couple of other things. There's clairaudient, which I'm
Okay.
also clairaudient as well because I can hear things.
Okay.
Um, and there's clairsentience, which is feeling things. So clairsentient
Oh,
is
right. So there's different types of clair.
there are different types of
Right.
clair.
Good, good,
And then
good.
um, being a psychic, I'm also a psychic.
Okay.
So yeah, it's all the things. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But so when you're psychic, you can actually pick up on what people are thinking that are
Mm-hmm.
sitting there in front of you. So yeah, basically all of the stuff.
So, as a psychic, can you switch it on and switch it off?
I can. That's a really good question. It's
Uh,
really funny. I swear when people find out, every single person is like, "Oh God." Like they're trying to somehow cover their heads. I'm like, and I tell everybody, I'm like, "No offense. I just don't really want to hear what you're thinking." When I first really started working with this and developing this, and there were times where I kind of poked around and I was like, "Oh, yeah, nope."
mm-hmm.
So I'm a very polite psychic, and I
Okay.
only access that when people ask me to and give me permission.
Okay. So you also had mentioned about being a spiritual leader. Did I get that correct?
Yeah, a spiritual guide.
Spiritual guide, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what I do is I use all of these tools. So to me, all of these tools, all the clairs and the medium and
Mm-hmm.
the psychic ability, have been given to me in order to help people look at patterns of behavior and
Okay.
hurt and things like that in their lives. And then also, it's great when you have information from someone's mother. If somebody's
Yes.
telling you something and their mom chimes in and they're like, well, it's really great. You kind of get to ferret out every single thing that people are really working with.
Mm-hmm.
And then you help them find these patterns. And I like to give people tools,
Right.
spiritual tools in order to shift the way they think and the way they see things,
Okay.
and really create a paradigm shift in someone's life. So that's what I aim to do. As some people call me a soul healer, some people call me a spiritual advisor, but that's what I do.
Okay. So take us through a session. If someone came to you and said, I've been getting these terrible nightmares, and not me, but I'm just saying, if somebody came to you and said, I'm having nightmares, how would you go about working with that person?
Well, it really, really depends. It depends on what source wants to give me. So
Okay.
I do tell my clients I'm a little bit different than your typical psychic or medium or clairvoyant, because I always say that the person sitting in front of me is not my client, that it's really source.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm like, you guys you may not get what you want, but people always get what they need. I'm very clear about that, because I do actually channel. So if source, right, is speaking to me or through me, it speaks through me. So very often I don't even remember a session.
Okay.
Because I'm being a clear channel for information. So it really, really depends on what needs to come up. So sometimes we speak exclusively to people who've passed, because there needs to be healing there.
Right.
But if somebody's having a nightmare and things like that, it could be that somebody's trying to communicate with them, or it could be that there's something that needs to be healed that they're not addressing.
Okay.
So it really is whatever comes through and whatever the client needs.
Right. Okay. I see that. So, Shannon, how would one be able to reach you if they were looking for a spiritual guide or a clairvoyant or those medium? I can go up or down the list.
All of them. It's a lot sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, okay, everybody can just be quiet. But if you'd like to reach me and work with me, I work out of the Dreaming Goddess in Poughkeepsie 2 days a week. I work there on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 10 till 2.
Okay.
And if you would like to see me, those are sometimes hard. They're odd times. Sometimes it's hard to get an appointment with me. But if you'd like to work with me on the phone, I have clients all over the world. So I'm, known to get up at 4 a.m. so I can speak to somebody in the Middle East or in Europe. So I can take phone clients. Or you can come to my house in Beacon and visit my dog and my cat and my kids and sit there and have a session with me face to face.
Okay, wonderful. So how long have you been doing this, Shannon? You said that, didn't you? No, you didn't.
I did, but really, I've always been the weird kid, right? So my best friend was a tree when I was a little girl by choice. And I always had dreams.
That's a good friend. Doesn't speak back.
Well, yes.
Well, they can talk, actually. Yes.
They can talk. And I always say that plants and trees are the best people.
Right.
But, when I would walk up to people when I was a little girl and I would be like, oh, your Aunt Hilda wants to say hi. Right. And they would be like, what are you talking about? So I've been doing this and hearing this since I was a child, but I've been actively practicing mediumships for about 4 years, but doing healing therapy work for about 14.
It's interesting when I say talk, I don't want people to think that the tree actually talks. But what happened is, because the other day someone gave me a plant and they gave me a nice box of flowers. And so they were going to put the plant inside with the flowers, and they says, oh, no, I can't do that. I can feel that. Like, the plant is saying, no, thank you. I don't want to go in there without those flowers. And it's true. I remember my mother used to tell me, some plants don't want to be next to each other. So it's like, yes. Because it's all, why? Because it's all energy. And so energy expresses itself in different ways. Like that. They knew right away. They said, oh, no, that's the plant's telling me it doesn't want to go anywhere near those flowers. So, it's very...
It's amazing. And what I always say to people about all of this, about plants and the way people communicate and things communicate and animals and things like that, we think they don't communicate because we don't understand them. But I say, well, you know, you don't understand Portuguese, but you understand that's a language, right? Just because we don't understand the language doesn't mean that there isn't a language being spoken. So I think what you said is if you're open to it, you can hear.
So what about animals? Do you work with animals? Because you just happened to mention that was going to be my next question. Do you work with animals?
You know, I don't necessarily. I'm not the person who sits down in front of an animal and does work with them. I can hear animals. I can hear animals that have passed. So it's funny. Every once in a while, you know, a dog comes through, and it's really funny. You know, because I always think that they're not going to be dogs anymore when they've passed, but sometimes they're still dogs.
And they want to talk about sometimes they're still dogs, right?
Yeah, sometimes they're still dogs, sometimes they're not. It's really funny. You know, sometimes they really want to talk about the fact that they got to sleep on the bed with their owners, or that they like to pee on the carpet. I mean, I've had really funny moments like that with animals.
Right. Okay, interesting. So now, have you ever worked with children, or do you? Or let me say, do you work with children?
You know, I haven't done this work with children, but I was for a very long time a therapist for individuals on the autism spectrum.
Oh, good. That's
yes,
very
and
good.
a lot of them were not verbal, and we had very profound relationships. And, you know, I was just telling somebody the other night they would have to throw my data out, because you have to throw out the highest and the lowest data in a lot of this work, because I always had such high data because I would talk to them. I would hear what they were thinking, and I would talk to them, and I'd be like, I know you're frustrated, or I know you feel like this, but I hear you. And so, yes, I have
That's
used.
Fantastic. That's really fantastic. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. Yeah, go ahead. You was going to say, but I just wanted to say that's fantastic that you're working with children that they're not able to verbally express themselves, but through that connection, you're able to hear how they're feeling. So just walk us through that, how that was.
It's usually when I've been working with a child for a long time. It's just like what I was saying about the plants. They have a language. We just, because we don't understand it, we tend to think that there is no language. So, you know, I just got really, really good at looking at patterns of behavior, but also hearing and hearing what they were thinking and feeling. And then what I would do is I would speak to them completely normally. And I would kind of call them out on their stuff. I'd be like, you know what? I know you don't want to do this, and that's why you're saying this. And I know you're frustrated because you don't think people understand you, but I do. So here, you got to step up to the plate. And, you know, to me, people on the autism spectrum are some of the most profound, amazing, compassionate, loving human beings I've ever encountered. And so they were so thrilled that somebody really saw them and understood and believed. And I was so thrilled that I got the opportunity to be around such an amazing, wonderful, loving being. So it was kind of a win-win for both of us, because I was just so honored that I could spend time with these amazing people.
Excellent. I can agree with that, because I actually worked with children who were on the autism spectrum, and they have some very special qualities and gifts, and they're not able to express them. So sometimes verbally, sometimes they are, but you can see that when you can connect with them, they're very special. That they we just don't see it, because again, we're not hearing a language, or however they're expressing themselves, it's not clear for us. So we sometimes think that, you know, well, they don't know what's going on. They do know what's going on.
Oh my gosh, they know what's going on more than anyone. I mean, I think sometimes I have this theory that they're so plugged in that they shut. I think that in some ways they're more highly evolved than we are. They just
I've got that feeling too.
Empathy.
Yes, I've got that feeling too, Shannon. I've got to say I sort of feel the same way about that, and I'm hoping that that will be revealed in regards to them, because they have a special intuitive sense about them, and I think they see and hear more than what we do, because we're caught up with the language. So I believe that very much so. So do you do like gatherings, parties, anything like some parties, gatherings, whatever? Do you work with any corporate?
I do gatherings, and people will kind of have a party specifically so I can do readings.
Okay.
It's if somebody is having like a super fun, light-hearted gathering, I'm probably not the person to
Okay, that's
bring.
good. That's good.
Yeah, but because I give them what I see, and if somebody's dealing with something really challenging, I see it, and I have to give them what I'm seeing. So when people create events, they create events where everybody comes together, and then I see people for like 20 minutes each in a room, and everybody goes out.
Okay.
So I definitely do that, and I will do group readings. If people would like for me to. And then, of course, if things come up in the group readings in front of people, I won't bring them up, and I'll just say, hey, after this is over, I might want to talk to you.
Oh, that's nice. That's very respectful.
Yeah, yeah, well, of course. But if you're looking to have just kind of like a, sideshow sort of like party trick kind of thing, I literally tried that, and then people were like walking out shell-shocked, and I was like, okay, this is probably not the party atmosphere kind of thing to have.
Right. I've personally had some two people that I know, maybe two or three people that I knew personally that were able to do that, and one about a couple of years ago, almost a year or so ago, she told me, it's a cousin of mine in London, and she told me exactly I was going to be living somewhere where she told me I was going to be semi-rural, I was going to live in a white house, there's a green bus that goes by the house. Everything she said was right on cue. And so it's like, I didn't discount it, I wrote it down. And so when I actually got there, I said, this is what she was talking about. This is it.
Yeah.
And so I was ready to receive. So what it does is it opens you up to be ready to receive what is going to come your way. Otherwise, I would have put I can't do this. It's too far. It's this, it's that. It's too cold. But it was for me. And so that helped me to make the decision as to where I'm staying now. So it can do many different things for you if you allow it. Because it's not that person, that it's coming from a higher source. And so just let it be.
Yeah. And that's how I feel. Excuse the car horn. Sorry, guys.
I can't even hear anything. Can't hear it.
Oh, good. There's no siren. We're fine.
Right, good. We're almost done, though. Yeah, Yes.
So really that's a really great story and an observation. And that's really what this is about. It's about helping facilitate movement and growth in people's lives.
Right.
It's very funny because people come and they want to know their future. I can see what could happen, but the future does shift and change because free will is a thing. And sometimes Source will not give me what's going to happen in the future because they don't want people to have expectations, right? So, or true. Sometimes it will. It just depends on what somebody needs. But for you, that information helped move you forward. So Source is all for it if it helps move people forward.
Yeah, because I would have put my own mind in the way in regards to putting blocks of I can't do this, I can't do that, and this and that. And so I was open to it, and it's been a good experience for me. Because I just allowed it to happen. So Shannon, for anybody who might be interested in they have these special talents, and I know I've heard of people blocking those talents. I think I've done a little bit of blocking myself, but I've sort of allowed it more, and I've been able to see some things and experience some things. So it's been good for me now that I'm not blocking it anymore. But what would you say to somebody who is going through this and who might be blocking it? What would you say to them, Shannon?
First, they really need to start doing their healing work. That really is the linchpin of every single thing you know, when it comes to this kind of work. So they need to do their healing work to start raising their vibration up. And really what all of this work does, you know, the peeling away of the ego mind, the, you know, healing of the old stories, the finding out of the stories, what it really does is it allows you those precious moments where you can be present. Because I always tell people, right, the past isn't real. It's a construct of our consciousness. And the future, as much as we'd like it to be, you know, that we try to predict, isn't real either.
Right.
The only place where source can live is where it's real. And so that's in the present.
Good, very good.
So the more present we can be, more information we can receive. So if somebody's blocking themselves, they're definitely not being present. You know, so if they can work on being present through healing, through meditation, anything like that, they're going to get the more information, and then they're going to understand that these gifts aren't scary at all.
Oh, that's some very good advice, because I know someone told me that they do see things and they just like they block it out. And so I think in the blocking, you're actually putting yourself in the middle of it, and then the message is not clear. I'm just saying that. I might not be right, but you as a professional may know more in regards to what I just said.
You know, they actually, when you do that, when things come in, and you go, oh my gosh, you create fear. I also do house clearings, and there are not many people who do house clearings. My friend Jessica and I do house clearings. And there's so much fear that we create around things that we don't understand.
Right.
But just because we don't understand something doesn't mean that it needs to be feared. You know, what is it?
Exactly.
The only thing to fear is fear itself. So really in this journey, the scariest things lie within ourselves, not all that stuff out there.
Correct. Okay, Shannon, so thank you. I appreciate you coming on the show. You've answered a lot of questions for some people, and I think that those who are struggling with the wonderful gift that they have, and those who might have been interested in knowing more about this and actually trying it for themselves, I think that you answered and removed a lot of the fears in regards to this gift that you have. And I'm glad that you know it's a gift, because some people, I've heard people call it a curse. It's not a curse, it's a gift. So thank you for that, Shannon. Thank you for coming on. And
thank you for
no problem. So now I'm going to thank my viewers for tuning in. So just bear with me for a second.
Okay.
So, to the wonderful viewers, your level of consciousness is the gateway to the future. Thank you.
Thank you.